Why has this coastal nation, situated beautifully off the Horn of Africa, been in a state of anarchy for over 30 years? And what drove the people of this coastal nation to revive a practice best associated with Blackbeard? Now, on the face of it, the idea that piracy could make a triumphant comeback in the 21st century sounds insane. After all, piracy hasn't been a major worldwide issue since the late 1700s, with just a few notable exceptions. And yet, as late as 2011, more than 200 acts of piracy were taking place each year off the coast of Somalia. So, why did pirates pop up in the Indian Ocean more than 300 years after Captain Kidd? And in order to answer that question, we first need to understand what has been going on in the Horn of Africa for more than 3 decades. Because if there's any country on earth that qualifies as a completely failed state, it's Somalia. After gaining independence in 1960, Somalia went down a path of utter self-destruction. It held a disputed constitutional referendum, had a quarter of the country stage a failed coup d'etat, started a war with its largest neighbor that, spoiler alert, didn't go well, had its second president assassinated in office, and finally, the military staged a successful coup d'etat. And from this chaos emerged Siad Barre, a communist military dictator and Somali nationalist who decided that he would be the one to bring order from chaos. And how would he achieve this incredible feat? Well, by starting another war and nationalizing the entire economy. At the same time he was fighting another failed war with Ethiopia, Barre nationalized all industries and farms in the country. And this led to widespread economic devastation by the time he was finally ousted from office in January of 1991. And with no one to fill the power vacuum left behind by Barre, Somalia was left without any government at all. And since the government had essentially run the entire economy over the previous decades, that meant there really wasn't any economy either. Now, faced with both bankruptcy and starvation, more and more Somalis turned to the sea to feed themselves. But with no navy to protect its coastal waters, roving bands of ex-military and local fishermen formed makeshift fleets to drive away foreign vessels that were illegally fishing in Somali waters. But eventually, these fleets found a far more lucrative trade in the piracy of a wide array of vessels ranging from oil tankers to cruise ships. By 2011, these pirates were inflicting nearly $7 billion in damages to global trade each year. The situation eventually got so bad that more than 30 nations banded together to patrol the waters off the Horn of Africa, leading to a sharp drop in piracy attacks after 2012. Now, the story of Somali's collapse and the return to piracy teaches us a lot. For starters, economies, governments, and social institutions are a lot more delicate than we may think. Many countries in that region have had to deal with their fair share of dictators and civil strife without becoming a byword for a failed state. Perhaps one of the major differences in Somalia is when a society is built almost entirely off of government control, not only of the civil sector or the military, but the economy as well. The collapse that takes place is much harder to recover from.